Let's start, sir.
Okay. Now, yesterday we had dealt with sections 36 onwards till section 74 of the Civil Procedure Code. Now comes the maximum and lengthiest order in the entire CPC, which consists of more than 106 rules. Now it is a complete code in itself, because execution, as has been said in section 36, it applies to the orders also. Orders are also executable under order 21 the rules framed therein. Now we had discussed earlier that payment under the decree, that is the first rule. Now if the decree is for payment of the amount, then there are three modes by which it can be paid. First is by payment by money order or bank draft. Second is by deposit in the court. And third, as has been directed in the decree. So, as far as first mode is concerned, there is no dispute about it, because if the money order is there or if the amount has been paid through bank draft or check, then there is a record regarding the same. Then, as far as the payment paid in the court is concerned, that is also not of any dispute, because the amount is so credited in the books of the court, and there is an evidence to that effect that the amount has been deposited. Original challan is with the decree holder, with the judgment debtor, and there are entries to that effect in the treasury and as well as in the register of the nazar of the court. So third mode is that if the decree directs that the payment has to be made in some other mode, then that mode has to be defined. Now, as far as the first mode is concerned, as there is no question regarding the payment thereof, but there are certain restrictions or certain essentials which are required to be followed. So, along with the payment, you have to mention the number of the original suit, name of the parties, how the money remitted is to be adjusted, the number of the execution case, and name and address of the payer. It is in rule 3, sub rule 3. Then comes rule 4, that is of utmost importance. It says that on any amount paid under clause A or clause B, clause C of sub rule 1, the interest, if any, shall cease to run from the date of service of the notice referred to in subsequent 2. Because the decree holder is to be informed regarding the payment of the amount. Otherwise, what will happen is that the judgment debtor has paid the amount, but that is not known to the decree holder. How will he come to know? As is also said in human relations, कि अगर माँ ने सोए हुए बच्चे का मुंह चूम भी लिया तो बच्चे को तो पता नहीं ना लगा. So that way, if the judgment debtor has deposited the amount and it is not brought to the notice of the decree holder, then certainly he cannot take benefit thereof. But if the amount has been deposited in the court, then the interest shall cease to run from the date of such payment, because the interest will not be payable when the amount is deposited. Then comes, provided that where the decree holder refuses to accept the postal order or payment through a bank, the interest shall cease to run from the date. It is the fault. It is dependent upon the fault theory, that if a fault has been committed, a default is being committed by the decree holder, then he cannot take benefit of his own wrong, because it is a rule of estoppel. If I fail to act on the representation, the judgment debtor is paying the amount, but I don't accept it, then how can I turn around and say that, look here, this amount was not paid to me, now I am entitled to interest thereof? So that cannot be there, because estoppel, section 115 of the Evidence Act is applicable. Now I will also refer to section 115. If you go through the commentary of section 115 in NAIR, you will find that there are more than 100 forms of estoppel. Because what we do is that we read only section 115. We don't read the commentary. When we go through the commentary of AIR, there you come to know that what are the various forms of estoppel. Estoppel by election, estoppel by deed, estoppel by acquiescence, and all those. There are number of examples given that how the estoppel will operate. So when the amount is paid in the court, then the interest shall cease to operate thereon. The judgment debtor will not be liable to pay interest to the court. Then payment out of the court to the decree holder, where the money payable under a decree of any kind is paid out of court. The decree of any kind is otherwise adjusted in whole or in part. The satisfaction of the decree holder. The decree holder shall certify such payment or adjustment to the court whose duty is to execute the decree, and the court shall record the same accordingly. So suppose a decree was passed against me. I have made the payment to the decree holder, and the decree holder does not issue the certificate. It does not get it recorded in the court. Then that payment will not be taken into consideration. So there is a lacuna when we make the payment outside the court and feel satisfied that receipt has been issued. So as such, I have paid the amount. I am not liable to pay the amount again and again. So precaution has to be taken that ask the decree holder to move an application in the court so that that payment is certified. And there are judgments to that effect that if the payment is not duly certified as provided on under Order 21 Rule 2 CPC, then certainly that payment is not admissible and cannot be taken into consideration. Then the judgment debtor, sub rule 2 says, or any person who has become surety for the judgment debtor may also inform the court of such payment. So then surety has to inform the payment. Then no payment or adjustment shall be recorded at the instance of the judgment debtor unless the payment is made in the manner provided in Rule 1. Now judgment debtor is prohibited unless the payment is made through money order or bank draft or posted in the court. So question will be that the payment has to be got recorded by the decree holder. So judgment debtor should be at his post, get that amount certified which he has paid to the decree. Then comes any last sub rule 3, a payment or adjustment which has not been certified or recorded as aforesaid shall not be recognized by any court executing the decree. The word is shall. It is not may. It is not discretionary. It is mandatory. So the court will not recognize if the decree holder issues a receipt and tomorrow he denies that he has not received any amount. The court will at once refuse to accept that payment and say that, look here, you have not got it certified, then certainly you are not liable to get the amount adjusted in the court. Then comes the second heading, courts executing decrees. How if the land is situated in more than one jurisdiction, then how the land is, how the decree is to be executed. Because when one, we had read section 16, 15 to 20 of the CPC regarding the place of jurisdiction. If the property is situated in more than one district belonging to that person, the suit can be filed at one place. So suit has been filed at one place. Now how the decree is to be executed, that is to be seen. So then it says where removable property from one estate or tenure situate within the local limits of jurisdiction of 2 or more courts, any of such courts may attach and sell the entire estate or tenure. So here a particular power has been given that if the property is situated in more than one village or district, then any of the courts where the property is situated can order the sale of the property, attachment of the property of all other districts or states. So this is a power which has been given to the executing court, and this is a unique power which has been given. Then transfer to the court of small causes. Now almost I will say that the courts of small causes has ceased to exist. There are no small cause, the value of which is less than a particular amount fixed under the act. So this act, as far as the small causes act is concerned, that has become redundant. But otherwise, transferred to the court of civil causes. If the decree is relating to the amount which is covered or which comes in the jurisdiction of the small causes court, then the decree can be transferred by the civil court to the court of small causes. Then Rule 5 says mode of transfer. Then how the decree is to be transferred. It says where a decree is sent for execution to other court, the court which passed the decree shall send the decree directly to such other court, either or not such court is situated in the same state, but the courts to which the decree is sent for execution shall, if it has no jurisdiction to execute the decree, send it to the court having such jurisdiction. Now it says that it can be sent to any court, even if the court has no jurisdiction. Because we will be dealing with this that if, and in the sections also we have dealt with this fact that if the judgment debtor does not have any property within the jurisdiction of the court, he is not residing there, and there are no means from which the decree holder can recover the property, then he can get the decree transferred to that court. Now, along with the decree, certified copy of the decree has to be attached. Secondly, a certificate of non-satisfaction has to be given by the executing court to the effect that execution was filed and the court has exhausted all the means to get the amount recovered from the judgment debtor. Then certificate of non-satisfaction, that has also to be recorded, and then the court will send the decree either at the choice of the decree holder where he says that the property of the judgment debtor is situated, or at any other place where he can get the satisfaction of the decree through a registered envelope, duly sealed and addressed to the district judge of that very district, wherein the district judge himself may retain the execution or he himself may entrust it to the civil judge senior division. Then comes procedure where the court desires that its own decree shall be executed by another court. Now here the power has been given. It is not the choice of the decree holder. If the court says and court feels that it wants to transfer the decree, then it can certainly transfer the decree to any such court, and along with that a copy of the decree is certificate stating forth the satisfaction of the decree has not been obtained by execution within the jurisdiction of the court, and a copy of any other order for the execution of decree, and if no such order has been made, certificate to that effect. If the court feels that no such thing has been made, then no such order has been made, then a certificate saying that no such order has been made. These three things are to be attached. Then courts receiving copies of the decree, etc., to file the same without proof. The heading itself is very clear. When the court has received the execution and a certificate, decree, and all that, then no proof is required. It is per se admissible because statute says so. Otherwise, what will happen is that if the court requires that, okay, it has to be proved, then it will be again a nightmare for the decree holder to prove the said documents. Then execution of a decree or order by the court to which it is sent. Now, where the such copies are so filed, the decree or the order as decree or order may, if the court to which it is sent is the district court, be executed by such or be transferred for execution to any other subordinate court of competent jurisdiction. So I have already said that it can be executed by the district judge or it can be transferred. That is the power of the district judge. Because district judge is considered to be the primary civil court of jurisdiction. And under the Punjab Courts Act, the powers have been delegated from the court of district judge to subordinate judges, to the senior sub judge for entrustment of cases and all that. Some ancillary powers have been given. Then execution by the High Court of a decree transferred by other court. Where the court to which the decree is sent for execution is a High Court, the decree shall be executed by such court in the same manner as it have been passed by the court in exercise of its original ordinary original civil jurisdiction. Suppose if the decree is received by the High Court from a foreign country or from any other court, then even the High Court has to execute the decree, or it may entrust the decree to any subordinate court for executing the decree. Then comes application for execution, where the holder of a decree desires to execute, he shall apply to the court which passed the decree to the effect, or to the officer if any appointed in its behalf, or the decree has been sent under the provisions herein before contained to any such another court, then to such court or the proper officer thereof. Or application for execution has to be made. The court will not suo motu execute the decree. The holder is under a duty to file an application for execution of the decree, unless the decree directs otherwise, as we had said in Rule 1. If the court says while passing the decree that the amount or the decree is to be satisfied like this, then the matter is certainly different. Then there can be an oral application. Orally, it can be requested to the court that decree holder, judgment debtor is present in the court. He may be ordered to be arrested prior to the preparation of the warrant if he is within the precincts of the court. If he is standing inside the court or is in the area of the court, then on oral application, the judgment debtor, the arrest of the judgment debtor can be ordered, but this is a very rare provision. No judge has ever done it, nor even they require it to be done. They will say that, okay, later on, you file an application for execution of the that decree. Now comes the written application. So there are performas prescribed by the High Court in the High Court orders and rules, wherein the performa for execution application has been given. All the particulars, number of the suit, name of the parties, date of the decree, whether any appeal has been preferred, whether any such payment or what payment or adjustment has been made, whether what happened to the previous applications, then amount of interest, if any, due upon the decree, then amount of the cost, name of the person against whom the execution of the decree is sought, the mode in which. There are 1 to 10 columns around in the performa, which are to be filled in by the decree holder in the written application for executing the decree. Then comes application to arrest to state grounds. As we had discussed while discussing section 55, arrest and detention. If an application is made for arresting the judgment debtor, then it has to state the grounds as to why the judgment debtor should be sent to the prison. Because it is an extraordinary power. Liberty, life and liberty of a person is being curtailed. So reasons, strong reasons have to be mentioned by the decree holder. And the two criteria which have been evolved by various courts in the judgments is that if the judgment debtor has the means to pay and he refuses to pay or neglects to pay, only then the court can order that, okay, you will be detained in the civil prison and you will liable to pay the amount. Unless and until you make the payment, you will not be released from the civil prison. Then application for attachment of movable property not in the judgment debtor's possession. If the decree is regarding payment of money and there is some movable property, say car, tractor, truck, or any other thing, golden jewelry is exempt, or any other property which is attachable and not exempt under section 60, which is not in the possession of the judgment debtor, because judgment debtor may have given the car or the truck to any other person for flying, then the application has to be made for attachment of the immovable property, and in that a description of such property is sufficient to identify the same. That means the registration number, AC number, and all other particulars are to be mentioned. Then a specification of the judgment debtor's share or interest. That what share the judgment debtor has given, whether he is the full owner, whether he is owner of to the extent of half share, 1/6 share, 1/5 share, that has to be given. Then power to require certified extract from the collector's register in certain cases. Now, if the decree is for recovery of the money and the property of the judgment debtor is required to be attached, and he says that he is the judgment debtor is the owner of the property situated in the revenue estate of such and such village, then a copy of the Jamamandi, because that is the collector's extract of the collector's register, which is known as annual record of rights, that has to be filed so as to identify the property. Why? If there is no sufficient description of the property, then how the court will come to know that he is the owner of the property? Secondly, if the warrants are sent to the collector and he entrusts the same to the patwari of the village, then from where and in which register he will make such entry? So otherwise, he will make an entry in the Jamamandi and say that this property has been attacked in execution of such and such decree, or in the course of proceedings in such and such decree. You may have come across many of the Jamamandis in which such entries are made in the red column, in column number 13 of the Jamamandi, that this property stands attacked, so that the entry is made, so that no other person should deal with the property. Then for application for execution by the joint decree holder. Now this is a very vital question which has been asked to me by even senior advocates who are senior to me by many years. That suppose a decree for special performance has been passed. One question was posed to me that a decree for special performance has been obtained by 4 persons and 2 persons do not join in filing of the execution application. Then what will happen to the decree? Whether it will become redundant? The answer lies in Rule 15. It says that those persons can be made as respondents, and the decree which will be executed will be for the benefit of the entire set of decree holders, for each of the decree holders. And if the decree holder has died, then it will be for the benefit of the judgment legal representatives also. So here lies the answer, because the question arises is that why don't we know these provisions? Because we don't go through the provisions of CPC. We take that no, these are redundant provisions, these are useless provisions. No provision is useless. It can come into play at any time. You may come across any such problem, and this is a complete answer. Nobody can say to it. Even one of the decree holders can execute the entire decree. And if he has realized the amount, he has to deposit in the court. The other persons or legal representatives, other decree holders will get their share out of the same. So then, where the court sees sufficient cause for allowing the decree to be executed on an application made under this rule, it shall make such order as it deems necessary for protecting the interest of the persons who have not been joined in the application. Court is to protect the interest of the persons who have not been joined in the application. It's not that one decree holder can recover the entire amount and usurp it. Court can say that, okay, you have recovered the amount, deposit in the court, you get your share, the other person will get their share as and when they make an application. Then application for execution by transferee of the decree. Now, I pose a question to you. Vishal, unmute everyone. Now, assignment, transferee of a decree comes under which clause of the Transfer of Property Act? Can anybody answer?
Order 21, Rule 16.
What?
Order 21, Rule 16.
No. Under the Transfer of Property Act.
The transfer of property. Okay. Because under 21, Rule 16
Transfer of
is
a decree.
transfer.
Transfer of a decree.
Yes. Transfer of a decree.
What is a decree?
Decree is final adjudication of rights and liabilities of parties by a civil court.
Agreed. There is no dispute about it. Decree is an actionable claim.
Right to recover.
That is
No.
an actionable claim.
It's an actionable claim. Recovery, it may or may not be. It's an actionable claim.
It is actionable claim, and actionable claim can always be transferred under the Transfer of Property Act. Because there is a provision regarding the transfer of actionable claims. So it is not that Transfer of Property Act, because in CPC, it is not that it can be read in isolation. The CPC has to be read along with all others. So many acts. Contract Act is there, Transfer of Property Act is there, then many other more acts. They are to be read along with Evidence Act. Because so many acts are there which are required to be read in conjunction with the CPC. Because CPC, though is a procedural law, but it deals with the substantive right of the parties. Enforcement of the substantive right of the parties. Now, transfer of a decree. Because
Section
I get
130.
the
Section 130 TPA.
yes, actionable claims. Then it says that if the decree has been transferred by the decree holder to a person, then decree holder, then the transferee can execute the decree. आप देखते होगे जब in the your practice कि क्या होता है कि अभी वो कहता है यार छोड़ तू मुकदमा छोड़ मैं लड़ लूंगा कोई बात नहीं है तू इतने पैसे ले और भाग जा. Then it becomes my headache that I'll get the decree and execute it. Or if the decree is there and if the decree holder is not getting the amount, then certainly the other person comes and says that okay, accept this amount from me and I'll execute the decree. Purchase करते हैं आप, you purchase the litigation.
That's right.
But again, under the Contract Act, the motive must not be deceitful or unlawful. अगर आप कहें कि जुए के पैसे हैं जी इसने मैंने रिकवर करने हैं ये जाके आप कर लो, then such action claim cannot be assigned or transferred. So powers regarding and the way in which the application for execution by transfer of a decree has been given in Rule 16. Then procedure on receiving application for execution of the decree. Now अब application तो आ गई, सारा कुछ आ गया, सारा कुछ हो गया, किसने करनी है, कैसे करनी है, क्या होगा, क्या नहीं है, अब उस पे अमल भी करना है. It has to be executed. Then comes Rule 17, procedure on receiving application for execution of decree. कि उसके लिए क्या procedure है? On receiving the application for execution of a decree as provided under Rule 11, Sub-Rule 2, the court shall ascertain whether any such requirement of Section 11 to 14 as may be applicable as the case has been complied with, and if they have not been complied with, the court shall allow the defect to be remedied then and there or within a time to be fixed by the court. If there is a technical defect in the application as provided under order Rule 11 to 14, then the court cannot dismiss the application. It will allow the defect to be remedied and then file it. Then comes the procedure has been given that how the amendment has to be signed, all those things. That is the procedure. If the defect is not remedied, the court shall reject the application. And every amendment made under this rule shall be signed by or initialed by the judge. मान लीजिए फिगर लिखने में ही गलती हो गई है तो वी आर डिपेंडेंट अपॉन द टाइपिस्ट. कभी हम उसको कहते कुछ है वो टाइप कुछ कर देता है. In mentioning the figure, there is a arithmetical mistake. Section 152 and 153 of the CPC will be applicable.
That's right.
So we have to, because everything is interconnected. No section or order or rule can be read in isolation. So unless and until we have a, देखो दो चीजें होती हैं. You must have watched cricket match so many times. एक होता है bowler's end. जब बॉल फेंकते हैं तो बॉलर्स एंड पे दिखती है हमें, तब हमें बाकी के जो वो प्लेयर्स हैं उनके बारे में नहीं पता लगता किधर को कहाँ खड़े हैं, और जिधर को बॉल जाती है फिर उसका व्यू दिखाते हैं, एंड देन वी डोंट कम टू नो दैट व्हाट द अदर प्लेयर्स आर डूइंग. एक आपने देखा होगा कि बहुत ऊपर ले जाके कैमरे को वो सारे ग्राउंड का व्यू दिखाते हैं. सारे ग्राउंड के व्यू में हमें पता भी कौन सा प्लेयर कहाँ पे खड़ा है, क्या पोजीशन है, क्या नहीं है. So we have to adopt that procedure. We have to be that camera who is standing on the top and taking a view of the entire ground. Now, what happens to us is that we only take the view from the bowler's end, or where the ball is hit by the person, by the batsman, and that carries there lies the defect. Because हमने एक रूल पढ़ लिया, एक सेक्शन पढ़ लिया, उसको इंटरप्रेट कर लिया, एंड देन वी सी कि यार सब कुछ हो गया, अब तो बात खत्म हो गई. इट इज नॉट द एंड ऑफ द मैटर. यू हैव टू बी कॉशियस ऑफ द फैक्ट दैट देयर आर अदर प्रोविजंस इन द एक्ट आल्सो which have to be simultaneously interpreted and applied. Then execution in case of cross decrees. अब देखिए सेक्शन 18 था क्रॉस डिक्रीज. If two suits were filed and both are decreed, then how the execution in those cross decrees have to be filed? Okay, after amendment counterclaim is filed, allowed to be filed. Counterclaim भी डिक्री हो गया, डिक्री भी सिविल सूट भी डिक्री हो गया. There are counter decrees. Then the manner in which the execution in case of cross decrees is to be done is provided in this. We will have to go through these provisions to ascertain that what are the rules regarding the execution of the cross decrees. Now certain illustrations are added. Now I will pose a question to all of you, that whether illustrations are part of the section or not.
According to me, no.
Why?
They are.
They are, as per the interpretation of statutes, they are a part and to be read along with the provision of law.
That I think I am, and my friend is right, that illustrations are meant to give a fair idea
Clear
as to
opinion.
what the legislature wants to carry.
Carry.
हम कहते हैं, हम वैसे भी कोई बात कहते हैं ना, यार उदाहरण दो इसकी क्या है, हम मांगते नहीं एग्जांपल.
Sir, can I explain it with a better example?
Right.
सर जैसे अगर हम इंडियन पीनल कोड पढ़ें तो उसमें थेफ्ट है और थेफ्ट इन रिगार्ड्स टू प्रॉपर्टी है.
Right.
तो सर अगर प्रॉपर्टी की डेफिनेशन देखें हम एज पर लॉ, तो उसमें जो एनिमल्स हैं वो प्रॉपर्टी की डेफिनेशन में नहीं आते.
ठीक है जी.
तो आईपीसी के जब थेफ्ट के एग्जांपल्स पढ़ते हैं, इलस्ट्रेशंस पढ़ते हैं, तो उसमें कैटल का एग्जांपल दिया गया है, व्हिच इज एन एनिमल and equally covered by the definition of theft.
Very right. So that means the illustration gives that what the legislature wanted to have in the act. So illustrations are part and parcel of the section. In one of our cases, there was a long argument with one of the additional district judges. He said that illustrations are being provided by the publishers. They are not there in the main act which has been passed by the legislature. Sir, how suppose a Ware Act is published by different publishers, then how can they give the same illustration in all the acts? They will give their own illustration. Then he had no answer. Then we got the judgments on that point, that illustrations are part of the section. They are not apart from the section. They are part of the section. So illustrations are there to make you understand that what the legislature wanted to convey to you. or wanted to mean by putting up these said provisions. So illustrations are added to this. Then execution in the cases of cross claims under the same decree. If there are cross claims and a decree is passed, then how the execution has to be done is provided in this. So it is not that there is no provision in the CPC regarding all these facts. Then comes cross decrees and cross claims in mortgage suits. If there are cross decrees and cross claims in the mortgage suit, then how the execution has to be done? The provisions contained in Rule 18 and 19 shall apply to the decree for sale in enforcement of a mortgage or charge. 18 and 19, which have been given above, they will be applicable to the same. That simultaneous execution, the court may in its discretion refuse execution at the same time against the person and property of the judgment debtor. एक तो बंदे को कैद भी कर लो, उसकी प्रॉपर्टी भी बेच के खा जाओ. Court may. So it is discretionary with the court. It is not mandatory on the part of the court. Court may refuse. That look here, either you proceed against the person of the person, against the person of that is the judgment debtor, or you proceed against the property of the judgment. Then comes notice to show cause against execution in certain cases. Now here the word 2 years have been substituted in the Amendment Act of 1976. If the decree has been passed and 2 years have elapsed, then notice is required to be given to the judgment debtor. If the application is made within 2 years, then no notice is required to be given. So this is a provision which has been amended by the legislature. Then against the legal representative of a party to the decree holder. अगर judgment debtor की death हो गई है, and we want to execute the decree as against the legal representative, then a notice has to be issued to them before proceeding to execute the decree. Against the assignee or receiver in insolvency, where the party to the decree has been adjudged to be insolvent. अगर दिवालिया हो गया तो it is only the receiver who is liable and accountable to regarding the assets of the judgment debtor. So notice is required to be given to the receiver. The court executing the decree shall issue notice to the person against whom the execution is applied for, requiring him to show cause on a day to be fixed as to why the decree should not be executed against him. So it is a show cause notice. In other words, it is a show cause notice that why the decree should not be executed against him. Do you have any objections to the same? If we come to the objections under section 47, then you can come and file the objections under section 47. Now, one thing, while discussing section 47, when we were discussing the same, now it is a settled principle of law, as you know, that executing court cannot go behind the decree. This is a settled law. That decree court cannot go behind the decree, that what has transpired prior to the passing of the decree. The executing court has to execute the decree as it is. But as far as the question is concerned, suppose a civil suit has been filed against a tenant and a decree for possession has been obtained against him when the property is situated within the urban area of Municipal Corporation of Delhi or any other city. So that decree is void. So in those cases, the objections under section 47 will be maintainable because they relate to the execution, satisfaction or discharge of the decree. A court which does not have the jurisdiction, then that decree is a void decree. So if that decree is a void decree, then how it can be executed? But otherwise, that what has transpired while deciding a particular issue or not, that cannot be gone into by the executing court. Then sub rule 2 says nothing in the force of going sub rule shall be deemed to preclude the court from issuing any process in execution of a decree without issuing the notice thereby prescribed if for the reasons to be recorded it considers that the issue of such notice would cause unreasonable delay or would defeat the ends of justice. Now a proviso has been made. Nothing in sub rule 1 will be applicable. The court may order the straightway execution of the decree without issuing the notice even after the expiry of period of 2 years from the date of passing of the decree. There is no such requirement. Nothing in this rule, nothing in the foregoing sub rule. Nothing means that whatever has been stated in sub rule 1 that shall not preclude the powers of the court, that will not bar the powers of the court to execute the decree there and then without following the provisions of sub rule 1. Then comes sale not to be set aside on the death of the judgment debtor before the sale but after the service of proclamation of sale. Now this is section rule 22A, which has been added by the Amendment Act of this 1976. It says debtor before the sale but after the service of proclamation of the sale, where any property is sold in execution of a decree, the sale shall not be set aside merely by reason of the death of the judgment debtor or between the date of issue of the proclamation of sale and the date of sale, notwithstanding the failure of the decree holder to substitute the legal representative of such deceased judgment debtor. But in case of such failure, the court may set aside the sale if it is satisfied that the legal representative of the deceased judgment debtor had been prejudiced by the sale. तो अगर इसके बीच में कोई ऐसा हो गया है कि sale before the sale and service of the proclamation, if the judgment debtor has died, then this sale will not be set. Because otherwise what will happen is that again the entire process has to be gone into. Then again order 21 rule 66 attachment everything, because once the property has been sold the attachment comes to an end. So what is the rights of the auction purchaser? They will be prejudiced because he has paid the amount. So that is why this special provision was added in 1976. Then procedure after issue of notice, where the person to whom the notice is issued under sub rule 22 does not appear or does not show cause to the satisfaction of the court, why the decree should not be executed, the court shall order the decree to be executed. Very clear. Where such person offers any objection to the execution of the decree, the court shall consider such objections and make such order as it thinks fit. Again comes order section 47. In notice de diya, then he has to come and file the objections, if any, against the execution of the decree. Then comes process for execution. Process fee has to be paid by the decree holder. There is no such thing. Then enforcement of process, endorsement on the process. So process is always entrusted to the court officials, wherein the date is given, purpose is given, and everything is given. Then why, if the no report has been made on the process, or if the process has been returned, then an endorsement on that process has to be made. That procedure has been prescribed therein. Where the sub rule 2 says, where the endorsement is to the effect that such officer is unable to execute the decree, court shall examine him touching his alleged inability, and if it may think fit, summon and examine the witnesses so as to touch inability and record such result. अब क्या होता है कि when the summons are sent for possession of the decree, वहाँ पे the court judgment debtor raises a dispute. He collects his own persons over there. They resist the execution of the decree. वो हल्ला करते हैं वो, and there is a a reason or there is an apprehension that there will be a loss of peace or quarrels between the decree holder and the judgment debtor and the person so recorded, and the bailiff of the court says that police help is required, then on that the court has to examine the bailiff as well as the other witnesses before proceeding further in the matter. So often the question is asked that under what provision the court can examine the process server of the bailiff of the court. So here lies the provision. Rule 25. Then when the court may stay the execution. Now the court to which the decree has been sent for execution shall, upon sufficient cause being shown, stay the execution of such decree for a reasonable time. Now I will give a pause over here that if a ex parte decree has been made and it is sent to the another court for execution, the judgment debtor comes to know of the passing of the decree, ex parte decree against him. He can always request to the court that look here, stay the execution of the decree and enable me a sufficient and reasonable time to apply to the court which has passed the decree for getting the decree set aside. To enable the judgment debtor to apply to the court to which the decree was passed or to any other court having appellate jurisdiction in respect of the decree or the execution thereof, or an order to stay execution, or for any other order relating to the decree or execution which might have been made by such court of the first instance or the appellate court, if execution had been issued there, if the execution had been issued thereby, or if application for execution had been made there. अगर वहाँ पे execution भी लगाई हुई है और भी किया हुआ सब कुछ किया हुआ, then he can always pray for the time that look here, grant me time, and the court is bound to grant the time to enable him to approach the first court which passed the decree. Where the property or person of the judgment debtor has been seized under the execution, the court which issued the execution may order the restitution of such property or the discharge of such property pending the result of the application. Again, that is there. Then power to require security. And if the court says that, okay, no, I don't believe you, but give sufficient security for the due performance of the decree, then the judgment debtor has to give it sufficient security for staying the execution of the decree. Then liability of the judgment debtor with discharge. No order for restitution or discharge under section 26 shall prevent the property or person of a judgment debtor from being taken in execution of the decree sent for execution. मान लीजिए बाद में वो 9/13 की एप्लीकेशन डिसमिस हो गई या 9/13 की एप्लीकेशन अलाउ हो गई, बाद में फिर दावा डिग्री हो गया. So it says that for the time being, the liability of the judgment debtor can be discharged, but ultimately it will not be there. Ultimately, that property can be again attacked. Then order of the court which passed the decree or of the appellate court to be binding upon the court applied to. Any order of the court by which the decree is passed or of such court of appeal as aforesaid in relation to the execution of such decree, it shall be binding upon the court to which the decree was sent for execution. So it shall be binding upon them. Then stay of execution pending the suit between the decree holder and the judgment debtor. Now, if a dispute has arisen between the judgment debtor and the decree holder regarding some other matter, title of the suit or any other matter, then this is a very peculiar provision where the executing court can stay the further execution in the case. So it says where a suit is pending in any court against the decree holder of a decree of such court or the court which is being executed by any such court on the part of the person against whom the decree was passed, the court may on such terms as to security or otherwise as it thinks fit stay the execution of the decree until the pending suit has been decided. So a separate suit is there. Then decree for payment of money, mode of execution. If the decree is for payment of money, including degree for purchase, payment of money as the alternative to some other relief will be executed by the tension of the tension in the civil provision of the judgment debtor or by the attachment and sale of the property or by both. So it again gives the power that in execution of a decree for recovery of the money, both the powers are there with the court, arrest and detention and attachment of the property. Then comes Order 32, suit for specific movable property. If there is a specific movable property and suit for decree, suit for specific performance has been decreed regarding that specific movable property. Suppose there is an antique piece regarding which the decree has been passed. So, in those circumstances, that very specific property will be required to be delivered. It says where the decree is for any specific movable or any share in the specific movable. It may be executed by the seizure if practicable of the movable or share or by the delivery thereto to the party to whom it has been adjudged and to such person as he appoints to receive the delivery on his behalf or by the detention in the civil prison of the judgment debtor or by attachment of his property or by both. Now, if the property car has been filed regarding the possession of a car, then car can be attached and delivered to the person, to the decree holder, or any other movable property, not perishable goods. Then attachment as remained in force for 3 months if the judgment debtor has not obeyed the decree and the decree holder has applied to have the attached property sold. Such property may be sold and out of the proceeds the court may award to the decree holder in case where the amount has been fixed by the decree to be paid as an alternative to the delivery of movable property, such amount, or in any other case, such compensation as it thinks fit and shall pay the balance if any to the judgment debtor. Sale has been made, specific amount was liable to be paid to the decree holder, so that amount has to be paid. So everything, that provision is there, that how the amount is to be dealt with, those provisions have been given. Then comes the main sections, rules 32, because 32 is the most important and relevant section provision in the entire CPC, which often comes into play. So it says that decree for specific performance for restriction of conjugal rights or for injunction. Two things are only dealt with: decree for restriction of conjugal rights or for an injunction. As far as the decree for conjugal rights, restriction of conjugal rights is concerned, then it does not mean that the wife can be arrested or the husband can be arrested and brought to the court and delivered it to the other party. Vishal, unmute. I'll relate one interesting example. Which, hello, everybody is hearing?
Please,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
सर
Yes,
नमित का तो वीडियो
yes sir.
वो वापस आ गया ये सेक्शन सुनते ही
हाँ, तो ऐसा हुआ कि हमारे सीनियर, बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग बात है, एवरीबडी विल लाइक लॉ। तो क्या होता था पहले ना, जो प्लीडिंग्स होती थी वो उर्दू में होती थी।
अच्छा जी।
तो उर्दू में भी अगर जो पंजाबी में भी होती थी उसमें वर्ड्स ज्यादा होते थे। तो हस्बैंड ने एक पिटीशन डाल दी सेक्शन 9 में, तो उसमें अल्टीमेटली उसने प्रेयर की कि मन मुदैला की मन मुदैला के साथ हम बिस्तरी की डिग्री पास की जाए। And when the judge read that prayer, can you imagine that what remarks were made by him? कहता साले मैं दल्ला हूँ। So you must be remembering one judgment passed by the Andhra Pradesh High Court, wherein the full bench they had said that okay, the decree for the restriction of conjugal rights can be enforced. Ultimately, that was set aside because nobody can. Because the reason was that you can bring the horse to water, but you cannot make him drink. कैसे करेंगे ये तो इतना ही हो सकता है कि भाई उसकी प्रॉपर्टी अटैच कर लो और कर लो ये कर लो वो कर लो दैट इज ए I think as far as the restriction of conjugal rights is concerned, when we will be dealing with Hindu Marriage Act, this two grounds of decree of conjugal rights and judicial separation, they are based on the breakdown theory of marriage. Because there are 2 or 3 types of dissolution of marriages. First is that it is based on the fault theory. Second is breakdown theory of the marriage. And third is the irretrievable breakdown of the marriage, which has not been recognized under the Hindu Marriage Act. So, as far as the conjugal rights is concerned, the method is very simple. Notice जाएगा उसको नहीं आएंगे बात खत्म हो गई उसकी प्रॉपर्टी अटैच कर लेंगे after 1 or 2 years the judge will say that okay यार भाड़ में गई ये डिक्री साली मैंने नहीं एक्जीक्यूट करनी है. Now, as far as the decree for injunction is concerned, so this is very it is not on the same footing, though they have been dealt with in the same section, in the same rule, they have been dealt with, but the consequences are very different. I can briefly submit that when a decree for injunction has been passed, and
Sir, before we proceed, Mr. Puneet Jindal is also there. He can also comment on this section. We like
Yes.
to hear me also.
हाँ
Sir,
जी पुनीत जी, bye.
सर कुछ आप भी कुछ रूल 32 पे कुछ आप भी बताओ. सर ने तो बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग एनेक्डोट बताया हमें.
Rule 32, Order 21.
Order 21, Rule 32. Decree for specific performance of restitution of conjugal rights.
Conjugal rights.
Okay. Well, to my mind, this is basically a ground for grant of divorce. Once the decree of restitution of conjugal right is passed, and the other spouse against whom the decree has been passed doesn't join the company of the then it becomes a ground for a divorce. Basically, this provision is used only for that purpose. Basically,
He is correct that basically it is used, execution is there, that simply obtaining of the decree is not sufficient. You must make efforts to show your bona fides, you must make efforts to execute the decree.
that's right. That's right.
That is only to show the bona fides.
But
Yes.
But forcibly, the court cannot ask the wife or the husband to join the company of.
Because in one of the judgments, you must be remembering, Andhra Pradesh full bench has said that no, he can be forcibly ordered to join the company, but later on that was set aside.
That cannot be.
That cannot be. Yes,
Article
Mr. Goel.
21 of the Constitution will still have a precedence over.
So
Precedence over.
filing of execution is a must to seek the relief of divorce on the ground of decree being non-executable, or merely by having a
Some
decree.
judgments say that it should be filed because that shows that you are malafide intentions if you don't make any effort. Just it is a formality.
Because general impression is that once you have a decree and if it is not executed for 1 year or they don't join the company, it is sufficient to file divorce on that ground.
But some of the judgments say that you must show your bona fides that you tried to execute the decree, or it was not just a clue or cue for you to take a decree for divorce against the other party.
Gagan, go ahead. What do you want?
Sir, as per a recent judgment of the Honorable
Adi, Adi.
Supreme Court, as per the recent judgment of the Honorable Supreme Court, the live-in relationships which existed for a long time, and the boy and the girl lived as husband and wife, and one of the partners, they were to be considered as husband and wife, and one of the partners leave the other partner after a short while, say after 5 years or 6 years. Can they file a petition for restitution of conjugal rights?
Now, as far as this question is concerned,
No, I don't think so.
No. he cannot file an application for restitution of conjugal rights.
Requirement of Sapatpadi unless it is fulfilled.
Performance of essential ceremonies.
Sir, it is a recent judgment by the Honorable Supreme Court that if a long living relationship can be considered as a nature of relationship as a nature of marriage.
That is what I am answering. That there are two things. There is a question, a doctrine factum valid under section 114 of the Evidence Act. If a person are living together for a long time and posing themselves as husband and wife, and the community at large is accepting them husband and wife, then any child born out of that wedlock will be a lawfully born child. So factum valid is there. Live-in relationship is also like that. So, but as far as the question of restitution of conjugal rights is concerned, for that you have to invoke the provisions of Hindu Marriage Act. And under the Hindu Marriage Act, there has to be a validly solemnized marriage. You can claim the compensation. You can claim the compensation. You can obtain the damages. Now, I am having with me one judgment passed by the Supreme Court of India, in which the Supreme Court has said, it is very surprising judgment, that in a case for rape, the husband can, the person can be ordered to pay maintenance to the girl.
Quite contrary to all the acts.
This is
Quite contrary, quite contrary.
So strange are the ways of the Supreme Court. Nobody can comment on that because there is no appellate court over them. Whatever they say, that is the law of the land.
Does the Supreme Court mean that a rapist is the husband?
I think section 125 RPC would be maintained.
Yes.
Arrangement.
As far as 125
CRPC
is
would be
concerned,
maintained.
Mr. Jindal is right. Because 125 does not require that there should be a valid marriage. So under that provision, but they have not quoted any such provision. But they said that okay, no maintenance can be allowed to them.
But that is going a little too far. Even in case of a rape.
It is only the Supreme Court which can pass the order. No other court will dare to do so.
Maybe under Article 142 of the Constitution, they might be exercising that power.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
they
sir,
can
one
pass-
more query in relation to this question only.
Right.
If the husband is sentenced to imprisonment
Hmm.
for an offense of rape
Hmm.
and the wife seeks maintenance,
Hmm.
then during the sentence, is he duty bound to pay the maintenance, or his properties will be attached to recover the maintenance?
If he has property, then property can be ordered to be attached. Secondly, that is a special ground to the wife to obtain a divorce also, as contained in that provision. If he is guilty of offense of rape or other sodomy or bestiality, even then the wife can obtain a divorce from him.
No, sir. In case he was not the husband, and
No.
maintenance has been directed.
Then under section 125, it can be ordered to be recovered. That's all.
Okay.
Because 125 does not require any legal valid marriage.
Sir,
No, right? Hanji.
sir, the question is, if the husband is behind the bars, court has passed a judgment that he will pay maintenance under 125. In that case,
उसका फिर ये है कि उसकी सेंटेंस बढ़ती जाएगी और if he doesn't make the payment एक महीने के लिए 15 दिन अंदर, एक महीने के 15 दिन अंदर, or if he has some property or from the jail allowance or the earnings made by him in the jail by doing some work, if he has earned something, then out of that it can be ordered to be paid.
wonderful, sir. Thank you, sir.
Now under
Mr. Jindal, I just want to have one query. I had read your article on that proof of documents.
right.
Right. There is one thing we have suggested, that once after the Order 14 Rule 4 proviso has been added, amendment has been made in the CPC.
18.4.
Pardon?
18.4.
Order 14 Rule 4.
14.
Order 18 Rule 4. Order 18 Rule 4.
Yes.
Order 18 Rule 4 amendment has been added, has been made, and proviso has been added
Right.
then there is no need for the opposite party to say, to raise objections with regard to documents attached with the evidentiary affidavit.
Right.
Court has to decide it.
Mhm.
But on the same breath, in the next breath, it is stated that mode of proof can be waived.
Yes.
Objections to that can be waived. Now, if that matter is to be decided,
Mode of proof is
mode of
now the thing.
proof
Mode of proof is that
of
suppose a document is there, you don't examine any witness, not a document which requires compulsory registration, compulsory attestation.
that is a statutory bar.
That is the statutory bar. Any other document,
Even in Stamp Act, there is a provision that if insufficiently stamped
Yes.
or unstamped document is put in evidence, then an application has to be filed by the opposite party that this document be confiscated. If that application is not
that has to
filed,
be filed because there is no otherwise need, because it is the duty of the court. But out of abundant caution, we file an application that this document is not properly stamped and it be impounded.
not filed, leave aside Stamp Act and Registration Act. But if objection is not raised, whether
Yes.
mode of proof can be deemed to be waived off also. The objection to the mode of proof can be deemed to be waived off.
No. If the question is that if the document has been otherwise proved by mode of proof, then those are two different objections. They can't be intermingled. Mode of proof can always be waived. I say that, okay, I admit this document.
No, admission is fine. Admission.
One is, secondly, if a document has been admitted in evidence, because mode of proof is a objection which does not go to the root of the case.
No,
They take it very lightly as far as the judgments are concerned. Because as far as Order 18 Rule 4 is concerned, it says that proof and admissibility. Now, proof also covers mode of proof.
Yes, that's right.
Mode of proof also covers mode of proof. But the thing is that who will bell the cat? Nobody is willing to take any decision on that point. Not even the High Court, not even the Supreme Court.
If the opposite counsel doesn't say that the documents which have been appended with the evidentiary affidavit, they are objected to. If it doesn't make that statement,
Even then the court has to decide it.
even then the court has to decide. But the opposite party does not deal with it. He leads his own evidence and closes the evidence. At the final stage of arguments, can it be that since it was
Yes.
strictly not objected to, or now he cannot, the opposite party cannot turn around and take the plea of the documents, mode of proof was not properly.
Now the thing is that what is being confused by us is that all the judges who are on the bench, they have done their practice prior to 2002, and that law is embedded very deeply in their mind. That objection has to be raised,
That's
and they will quote 1962, flana, all those back judgments,
yeah,
which now stand totally abrogated and overruled.
yeah.
But still, that memory will take a long time. Now I will refer to section 136 even. Judge to decide has to be admissibility of evidence. It says when either party proposes to give evidence of any fact, the judge may ask the party proposing to give the evidence in what manner the alleged fact if proved would be relevant, and the judge shall admit the evidence if he thinks fit that the fact which, if proved, would be relevant and not otherwise. Now, this section has been incorporated in 1872, much before the passing of the this Code of Civil Procedure. Now, how many of the judges do refer to this section? Because that is why the legislature was conscious of the fact that judge has to decide regarding the admissibility of the oral as well as the documentary evidence. And if the judge does not decide that, then no one can be prejudiced by the act of the court. Because a serious prejudice is being caused. Now, as far as the Stamp Act is concerned, there is a loss to the exchequer. On the one side, they say that no, we will not pass any decree on the basis of a family settlement because it is a fraud with the exchequer. And if a document, they say that it has not been properly stamped and you have not taken the objection, okay, then we will admit it. Or there can be two standards. Because if the document has not been properly stamped, then stamp is required to be fulfilled, to be deficiencies to be made good.
Most of the judges consider objections to this as hyper-technical objections. Now.
Hyper-technical, because they don't know the real impact.
Yeah.
Because if the objections are rightly decided and it is and the documents are properly proved and admitted into evidence, 80% of the litigation will go. How it is a hyper-technical objection? Mode of proof is one of the best objection which a party can take. Because various modes are prescribed, as I have mentioned in my article, that these are the modes by which the document can be proved. If none of those modes has been exhausted, and simply in the affidavit I say I tender into evidence exhibit so and so the sale deed, without saying that this was ascribed at the instance of the seller, then it was read over, then we had accepted the same to be correct, then it was signed by us, then the document was presented to the sub-registrar. There are so many things. Because what we were discussing earlier, that all the acts have to be read in conjunction with each other, not in isolation. Under the Registration Act, now let us take otherwise. Under the Registration Act, if a done act has been done by the registering officer, presumption of truth is attached to that. What will happen to that? Why should I prove? अब वो कहते हैं कि नहीं जी आपने तो ये कहना ही कहना कि पढ़ के सुनाया गया जी, फिर सब रजिस्ट्रार ने पढ़ के सुनाया जी, फिर वहां सही माना जी, फिर एंडोर्समेंट में दस्तखत किए. What is the need of it? That means you yourself are doubting the integrity of the person or your own act, the Registration Act. So, because it is the partial lack of knowledge, I will not say total lack of knowledge, it is partially lack of knowledge. Because when we sit on the chair, having 3 loins, and the 4th loin is sitting on the chair, then anything can happen. The loin which is hiding behind that sits on the chair, everything is possible. Because we have to give a deep thought as far as the civil law is concerned. Civil law is not that simple, but it is simple if it is understood properly. Now, I had cited one judgment in that very article, Jagjit Singh versus. In that, this fact has been dealt with, that prior to 2002, what was the position, and after 2002, what is the provision? What
This
changes?
is Himachal High Court.
No, our own High Court. And the judgment is, I think, those are 2012, volume 4, CCC, page 254. That is mentioned in the article.
Jagjit Singh versus.
Because nobody is there to listen. They are only to cut down the pendency in the court. Real substantial justice is not being done.
Now the situation will be very bad in July.
Yes.
The earlier position was that ordinary matters were not being heard in the High Court.
Right.
Now it will become totally impossible for the courts to hear ordinary matters.
Right.
At least in 3-4 months scenario in 2020, the things will be very difficult.
Very difficult. Very difficult in the trial courts also. What to talk of the High Court? Should we continue with this section, this rule only, and then we'll come to the second question. Now, as far as the decree for injunction is concerned, now there are 2 or 3 things by which the decree for injunction has been concerned. Firstly, I will ask the question. Vishal, unmute.
Ji.
Whether there is any limitation for executing the decree for injunction?
12 years. 12 years.
Hanji? Whether there is
12
any limitation prescribed for executing the decree for injunction?
No, sir.
No. Answer is no. A decree passed for injunction will last forever. As far as the
Order
decree for-
21 rule 32 can be invoked, I think,
now,
whenever there is.
as far as the decree for mandatory injunction is concerned, there is a specific provision that it is valid for 3 years only. After 3 years, it becomes invalid. It becomes time barred. Now, as far as the decree for injunction is concerned, it will last till the property is there. Now, secondly, if a decree for injunction is being violated, then the way of enforcement of the decree is by arrest and by the attachment and sale of the property of the judgment debtor. By arrest and detention of the judgment debtor in the civil prison, and suppose the judgment debtor is able to dispossess the decree holder by force from the said property, then then warrants of possession can be issued for restitution of that property. So when we say to the court that, okay, look here, give us the warrants of possession of this property regarding which the decree for injunction has been passed, they always say no, you go and file another suit. There is no necessity to file another suit. Now, the decree for specific performance of injunction has been passed is a corporation. The decree may be enforced by the attachment of the property of the corporation or with the leave of the court by detention of in the civil prison of the directors or other people where any attachment under sub-rule 1, sub-rule 2 has remained in force for 6 months. The judgment debtor has not obeyed the decree. The decree holder has applied to have the attached property sold, and such property may be sold and the proceeds may be given to the decree holder. So all those provisions have been given regarding the arrest and detention, this attachment and sale of the property of the judgment debtor. Then comes the decree for specific performance, 32 Rule 5, where a decree for specific performance of a contract or for injunction has not been obeyed. The court may, in lieu to the addition of all or any of the other processes, direct that the act required to be done may be done so far as practicable by the decree holder by some other person appointed by the court at the cost of the judgment debtor, and upon the act being done, the expenses incurred therein may be ascertained in such manner as the court may direct, and may be recovered as if it was included in the decree. So this is the mode required to be done by any officer appointed in the court. That means bailiff can be ordered to deliver back the possession of the property in injunction or specific performance. In specific performance, there are 3 or 4 stages. Firstly, the decree is there. Then the decree holder is called upon to file an draft sale deed. Then it is mandatory on the part of the court to send a notice of the draft sale deed on the judgment debtor, so that he may raise any objection regarding the draft or the inclusions made therein. Then, if that draft has been served, then the court may direct the judgment debtor to come and execute the sale deed. And if he does not come, then can appoint any person on behalf of the judgment debtor to get the sale deed executed and registered. And then, after the execution of the sale deed, the court may order the delivery of possession by issuing warrants of possession. So as far as non-service of the summons or service of the draft of the application is concerned, I'll be dealing with section order 43. That order is appealable. Now there are certain things when we are dealing with the orders, it is very difficult to make a distinction as to what is appealable and what is reversible. Very fine distinction. Sometimes it has been said that no, look here, this is revisable. Whereas in the same section, it says that no, it is appealable. Now let us take the case of application under section order 9 rule 30. If it has been dismissed, it is appealable. If it is allowed, then it is revisable.
Revisable. Mhm.
Why double standards? Why double standards? I fail to understand. Either make it appealable or make it revisable. But there are so many things in the law which are required to be taken care of by making specific and clear provisions. Because nobody at the time of drafting of the act takes into consideration the ground realities. So as far as the decree for specific performance is concerned, that can be executed in the manner, all the 4 steps which are being stated by me have to be taken and the sale deed has to be executed on behalf of the judgment maker. So we'll end the discussion today, and if there are any queries.
Can I ask one, or as someone else is asking? I had a query from the very beginning.
Right, you start with the query.
Sir, Order 21, Rule 1, there was a provision where you said that once the amount has been deposited by the judgment debtor and decree holder has been served upon a notice, the interest stops. Suppose it is deposited in the court. My question is, presuming it is deposited pursuant to an order of a higher court, say appellate court or high court or supreme court, that you deposit so and so amount, but the same shall not be released. You deposit that, it is in the notice of the respondent, you serve him a notice also that it has been deposited, but it doesn't get released to him. Then what is the status of interest?
Now the thing is that the matter is still seized by the appellate court or by the Supreme Court. So if there is no finality in the judgment. Order 21 Rule 1 deals with the final decree, which has passed all the rigors of the first appellate court, second appellate court, and the Supreme Court.
Okay.
Suppose in the appeal, the judgment is reversed. Then what will happen to the amount if it is dispersed to the decree holder? He'll say, "मैं तो खा पी गया जी, अब मेरे पास तो कुछ नहीं है." Question of interest will come only when the decree is final.
Now the issue comes is, presuming the amount stays deposited over there for 3 years, 4 years, the appeal of the judgment debtor gets dismissed. Now the decree holder says, I must be granted interest till the day it is paid to me, till the date of payment, and not. Now the judgment debtor says, I had deposited in 2010. Why should I pay out till 2015? That dilemma comes.
Now, the via media is provided under section 151. Where there is no provision, the decree holder or the judgment debtor can make a prayer to the court that this amount has been deposited by me in the court. Let it be deposited in a fixed deposit so that it may carry interest.
True.
So if the interest, if ultimately the decree holder succeeds, he will get it. If the judgment debtor succeeds, he will get it. Then the interest of both the parties is being saved. And we have done it in so many cases.
But then whose duty is prior to move that application, presuming judgment debtor does not?
The decree holder can do it.
Whose duty is prior and he does
No,
not do it?
there is no question of any prior or later duty.
But none of them makes that application. The issue is
Then
that
they have to suffer. Then they have to suffer.
They mean who? Judgment debtor or
Both the
decree holder?
parties. Both the parties. Whose interest is.
Basically, Vishal, it is the duty of the appellate court.
Yes.
If the appellate court or appeal court, whatever it may be, has made a direction that you deposit the amount, and the judgment debtor has deposited the amount pursuant to that interim order, it is the duty of the court to pass, while finally deciding, rejecting the appeal or accepting the appeal, to take care of the interim orders and pass suitable orders in the final decree itself, so that doctrine of merger will apply.
Yes. And secondly, you can apply to the appellate court also. That's, look here, sir, you have made an order for the deposit of the money. Let it be kept in the fixed deposit with a certified bank.
I am actually doing one such case where nothing of this
Appellate
sort
court will be
happened.
willing to.
And ultimately now all are in dilemma as to who will pay the interest and who will suffer. Whether the judgment debtor, nothing of this sort happened.
If there is no order, then the JD will have to pay the interest, whatever has been awarded in the original decree in favor of the decree holder.
Mhm.
The compliance under order 21 rule 1 in my way will not be there if the deposit is a conditional deposit, or if the deposit is by virtue of an interim order direction passed by the appellate court, because that is a sort of a security furnished under order 41 rule 5.
Yes.
Okay.
Because under order 41 rule 5, stay of the execution has to be made on certain conditions.
Certain conditions.
Certain conditions. That's right. It was
And
under
even
41.
if it, and even the court can say that, okay, give the bank guarantee, which is worse than the deposit of the amount.
That's true. That's true.
For the interest to
So it
is under
depends on the
order
facts and circumstances of the case.
rule.
Pardon?
I got interrupted. So anyone else? Sir, you want to have a talk something on this? Either anyone else wants to ask a question?
हाँ जी गौरव जी.
हाँ जी सर, सवाल यही है कि the person deposits the money, showing his bona fide that in the suit of specific performance that he was ready to purchase the property. Now the amount is not deposited with any bank.
Right.
Now the opposite parties goes up to the Supreme Court, and finally the court orders that the money be refunded. Now
Right.
the problem is that no order application for fixed FDR was given. Now what can be the fate of the money? Because as per the order of the Supreme Court, if it has accrued any interest, let it be paid. Now no money interest has been paid. It has just been lying deposited with the treasurer only.
In the deposit made by the court. Now the question again will come square one, because if it is the default of the party who was to ultimately get the benefit of the amount deposited. He should have made an application to either of the appellate courts or the Supreme Court that, look here, this money is lying without any interest.
Yes.
So get it, send it into a bank and get it deposited in the fixed deposit receipt. We are getting it done so many times.
No, sir. Now the problem is that
And the trial courts do pass the order.
the client did not know it, and the council did not do it. Now after a span of 10 years or 20 years, he says that at least some interest be given to me.
Mr. Gaurav, I am reminded of one thing, one dictum, that by the mistake of the doctor, you are buried 6 feet deep in the earth. And by the mistake of the council, you are hanged 6 feet above the earth.
Got it, sir. Simple and easy.
So if you have chosen a person to represent you who is not that competent, then you have to suffer for it.
Got it, sir.
Nobody else can do it. And that is why an advocate has to be on his toes at all the times to protect the interest of his client.
Yes, sir.
That is why I say that knowledge of provision of each and every law, rules, is a must, and are all interconnected. Nobody, no act or rule or section can be read in isolation.
Yes,
And
sir.
when we read all these acts in isolation, then the entire hodgepodge is there.
There.
And this is what is being done, because Mr. Jindal has rightly pointed out that who is going to do it, because we are still embedded in the mentality of 20 years back that objection has to be raised. And we don't, and the judgments being quoted are of the year which are prior to 1976. I tell you one my personal experience. We had filed an appeal against the order dismissing the application for disobedience of injunction under Order 39 Rule 2A6. Or the same judge, Mr. G.S. Sandhu, regarding whom I had discussed. Mr. K.K. Jain, Piyush Kant's father, he was representing DCM. So on one hearing, the case was not fixed for arguments. It was not to be listed for not to be heard. When I went inside the court, Mr. Jain was already there and he had pumped something into the mind of the judge. Judge जाते ही मेरे पीछे पड़ गया. But fraud is being played by you. The order is not appealable and you are filing the appeals against this judgment. Sir, बात क्या हुई? बात तो बताइए. He said that he has got a judgment 1977 Allahabad which says that this order is not appealable. मैं कहा, let me see the judgment. So I saw that judgment. That judgment was rendered in 1976 prior to the enforcement of the Amendment Act. Secondly, I said that, okay, look here, sir, now let us get back to it. Now see the date when this order was passed. It was prior to the Amendment Act. And in the Amendment Act, it has been made appealable. Now see my date of order. And then he was totally satisfied. Then जो क्लास उन्होंने जैन साहब की लगाई फिर कहते you come to the court, you are a senior advocate, you are misguiding. So the thing is that it is not the judgment. Sometimes the judgments are published at a very later stage and the law has changed. So we have to keep, what a successful advocate has to do is, he is to keep in mind the latest changes, latest amendments. And if he does not take care of the latest amendments in the law, he is bound to suffer. So these things do happen, because if an advocate has not done anything, then it is the fault of the client, or we can say that is an act of the God.
That is the reason we remain student of law throughout our life.
Yes, I always say we are the students of life, and no advocate should allow the student in him to die. The moment that student dies, finished. Because we go on learning and new experiences, new interpretations, new things are coming up on daily basis. Any other queries?
I think
नमित जी थोड़ा सा वो हो गया, restless.
कौन जी?
नमित जी.
हाँ, नमित जी कहाँ हो भाई? लंच हैवी?
नहीं सर, मैं सुन रहा था बैठा हुआ आराम से जी. मैं तो ऐसे ही
restless हो गए लगते हैं.
लंच कहाँ किया है आज? अभी बनाया ही नहीं तो करा कहाँ से?
तेरे को घर पे रहना भी और दिन बना दिया चलो जी. सर वी कंटिन्यू टुमारो 3 PM सेम.
Continue tomorrow.
चलो
मॉर्निंग रख लो यार. मॉर्निंग रख लो 11 बजे.
मॉर्निंग और कहीं
अगर कोट कूद रहा हूँ मॉर्निंग बढ़िया रहता है यार. दोपहर को थोड़ा सेशन में सभी आधे रह जाते हैं, मिस हो जाते हैं, सो जाते हैं.
नहीं यार, we should not be changing the time every now and then. From 4 we change to 3. That would hamper the understanding of rest everybody in the group. You
चलो ठीक है.
better we have it at 3 o'clock.
नीलेश जी आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही.
हाँ जी.
हेलो.
चलो सर देन
नीलेश कह रहे हैं नीलेश की आवाज नहीं आ रही.
हाँ नीलेश जी बताएं.
आवाज नहीं आ रही तेरी.
चाय का टाइम हो गया होगा.
नहीं आ रही.
अभी भी नहीं आ रही. अभी भी नहीं आ रही.
चलो
मैसेज कर दो.
उसकी ये वीडियो आती है, आवाज आती है, नहीं आती.
Did you
वीडियो
like the article?
अब आ रही.
करण भी वीडियो
Yes.
बोल रहा है.
Just one thing. Just let me ask one thing from Mr. Puneet. Did you like the article which I got published?
Yes, certainly.
Very useful and informative, sir.
Yes, very informative.
And it is exhaustive.
Yes.
Actually, most of the lawyers who have not practiced in the trial court, it is very useful for them.
Yes. Even in the trial court, it is very useful.
Now, with the passage of time, with seeing the records,
Very useful even in the to the person.
procedures, but exhibition of a document, these are the which normally
बंद कर दो.
I could
इसको वो लगा दो.
remember so much because they have hardly these stages of the trial.
Yes. That is why I had written that it is for the benefit of all the advocates. And I have not discussed much of the case law. Because if we go through the case law, then it becomes
Very clear.
a question of debate. What I tried to discuss was the bare provisions. So that if the bare provisions are clear, then the law will always be clear.
Very right.
And second was regarding volunteering information that has been published in 2019 volume 3 RCR Civil. We are trying to know, taking benefit of this pandemic and using something. Now I am proposing to write a book. I think that it will be very helpful to all the persons. Tips to become a successful advocate.
Yes, must do it. Must do it.
I have written almost 8 chapters, and the last chapter is there, which is to be finalized by me. And then we will be talking with some publisher to get it published. Because it gives you the details, how you have to prepare the things, how you have to enter the profession, everything which can be conceived by an advocate.
Very good.
And it will be a very help to the youngsters who are entering the profession. Because one thing was very much clear. When I joined the profession, as I told you that I was appointed as a lecturer by Punjab University, and I left the job. Dr. Veer Singh was there. He said that, okay, you are going to join the practice. Do you have a house? I said, yes, I have the house. And then, do you have the capacity to have your food for at least 10 years from your own resources? I said that I have. Then he tore off my appointment letter. And if you don't have a house, if you don't have the means to sustain yourself for at least 10 years, then you are not meant for practice. So these things are there. Because in earlier years, it is a tough thing for every young advocate when he enters the profession.
So the time to end the session today. Thank you very much, sir, for another
you, sir.
wonderful
Thank you
session.
very much.
And I also thank.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
And I also thank Mr. Puneet Jindal for joining us today. And
Yes, we are grateful.
It was really wonderful. That's how we could actually make it an informal webinar where we discuss everything and we have a healthy discussion and get to learn a lot of things.
Healthy and fruitful discussion.
And especially Elder Jindal's call are always there.
Thank you so much. So nice of you, sir. So nice
of you, sir. So nice of you. We are proud of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. See you all tomorrow.
See you tomorrow at the same time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.